What's up, boxing fans? It's your boy Rick Mohamed, Brawlers Sports Media in the building. Hey, welcome back. Happy New Year, everybody. We had a long, great, prosperous year in 2021 of boxing. Hopefully 2022 can match it. We had some great fights last year in 21. I'm looking for some in 22. Just wanted to give you guys a quick lesson real quick for all the boxing fans out here who want to see certain matchups and certain fights. For one, 2022, we all want to see who? Terence Bud Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. square off. Terence Bud Crawford versus the big fish is what Spence calls himself. Here's the thing, guys. That fight is not likely to happen simply because this is how it goes. There's too many handlers involved. The promoters, the network, the fighters. So let's talk about this for a minute. When you talk about mega fights with superstars, elite fighters such as Bud Crawford and Errol Spence Jr., and that fight definitely has to be made on pay-per-view, and numbers have to be made. And the only fighter of those two fighters that will sell pay-per-view homes, and many of them, would be Errol Spence Jr. Now, Bud won't have a stake to claim just exactly what his take should be, 60-40, 50-50, 70-30, which we all know that would probably be a more of an even fight, 50-50, in order to get the fight made. Only, though, if each one of these guys carries the weight when it comes to producing the numbers on pay-per-view. We know Spence can do it, but Bud has had a lackluster pay-per-view career. No disrespect to Bud. He's a genuine talent, and he's great for the sport of boxing. However, they didn't market Bud right to be a pay-per-view superstar ticket salesman. And that's not really Bud's job. Somewhat of it is. He's got to be able to market himself, talk the trash, talk the talk, walk the walk. However, though, that falls on the promoter. It's the promoter's job to do what? Promote. You have a product. Your product is Terence Bud Crawford. Promote that product where it becomes a household name like Pepsi, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, if you will. Absolutely. See where I'm going with this? So that wasn't done for Terence Bud Crawford. And, that's not his call. That's not his fault. Did he stick around way longer than he should have with Bob Arum and Top Rank Promotions? Maybe so. Most likely he did. And then it becomes a part of loyalty with fighters as well. So with that being said, we all would love to see this fight, but it would be, impossible for Al Heyman and Bob Arum to sit down and make this fight because the numbers aren't going to work. Because I can tell you right now, Earl is going to be like, hey, we know I can sell, a shitload of pay-per-view sales. We know Bud cannot. And there's no way I'm going to give up more of the money to appease this fight to happen. That's not good boxing sense, and it doesn't make good business sense because if the numbers don't make sense, then this fight isn't going to make sense. So Earl is saying, hey, if I'm carrying the weight, I'm pushing the ticket sales, it ain't going to be no 50-50 split. They each have to carry their own weight, and those pay-per-view numbers have to be equally met, meaning they both can carry that pay-per-view torch, and Bud, unfortunately, cannot. Therefore, you can't take anything from Bud Crawford. He's a talented guy. He's special, no doubt. He made a statement as the first and only guy to beat Showtime Sean Porter. Big statement there saying, hey, I deserve a shot at Spence, and he well so does. However, it's back to business. You can't slap him in the face. You got to give him his just due. He is, the top dog. And everybody wants to see the two top dogs go at it, him and Errol Spence. But unfortunately, it's a business. This is a business move, and it just doesn't make good business sense. Because when you think about it, if the promoters, let's say the promoters are like, Al Heyman, he's putting up a ton of money, and then Bob is like, oh, well, I got to put up that kind of money for my guy, Bud Crawford, and I know I'm not going to get my return. Not only that, the networks are saying, hey, Bud's not going to sell hardly jack on pay-per-view sales compared to what we know Spence is going to sell. So now Bob Arum's going to come up short again on one of the biggest fights made in the welterweight division since Sugar Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin, Marvelous Hagler, and Duran, and their whole 147 weight class division. List goes on and on for great mega fights, if you will. So with that being said, that's pretty much how this goes, guys, because the promoters, the handlers there, the fighters, and the networks is all like, hey, a fight this big, of this magnitude, we should be raking in the dough, and at least upwards of $1 billion or more the night of that fight. And I'm talking about ticket sales, concessions, pay-per-view sales. We're probably talking about, upwards of $2 billion in sales across the board when it's all said and done, and the count goes in for what that fight raked in that night. But for the most part, on the business side of it, guys, don't be surprised if we do not see a Terence Bud Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. It just doesn't make good business sense right now. The money isn't there for both of these fighters based on what each one of them can do on pay-per-view. And Al Heyman is a businessman. He's not going to give away the farm, and his guy is going to do his part, but Bob Arum, Top Rank, Bud Crawford's side isn't going to carry their weight and get those tickets sold. And, and like I said, it's not Terence Crawford's job to self-promote or to figure out how he can become a superstar pay-per-view seller. And for that matter, I don't know what big super fight, pay-per-view super fight Bud would be worthy of having, period. Because it still boils down to pay-per-view. And you don't have the numbers there to sell a mega fight on pay-per-view. So what's going to be next for Terence Bud Crawford? Just wanted to share that with you guys and let you know. Those are mega fights that we want to see, of course. No doubt. I do. You all do. But the fans, as a fan, those of you who don't understand the breaking down of the money, how the money is put into the pot, purse bids, networks are paying a lot of money, concessions, ticket sales, pay-per-view, homes purchased, all of that comes into consideration. And like I said, it just doesn't. It's not gonna work out for this fight to happen as it stands on a pay-per-view aspect. And that fight has definitely got to be sold on pay-per-view. That's it for now. I hope I shared a little bit with you guys, give you some insight as to how that all works and how we may not see Terence Bud Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. in 2022. All right? It's your boy, Rick Mohamed, Brawlers Sports Media in the building. Hey, welcome back. It's 2022. Happy New Year, everybody. Let's get it. Let's go, champs.
Brawlers, baby.